With the NFL season almost underway, with preseason starting next month and training camp starting at the end of the month, a final decision has not yet been made for Deshaun Watson on his playing time, as he is still in an ongoing civil lawsuit right now. Baker Mayfield has made it very clear back in free agency in the NFL that he does not want to be a Cleveland Brown. He wants to be traded. He has requested it. Nothing has happened. And how would this still ongoing civil lawsuit affect Deshaun Watson with his playing time and the future? All that will be covered today on Cooper Sports Podcast. And you are now listening to Cooper Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Cooper Brooks, bringing you the best content from the NBA and NFL each podcast, wherever you may be listening from Spotify or YouTube. Thank you for joining. All right, thank you for joining today's podcast. Today's podcast will be episode 7. Today will be NFL content. I know the past episodes have been so far NBA content, with only one episode being with NFL content. So I'm going to move into NFL content a little more now, because I'm going to lay low on free agency for now. I know free agency is still going. There's still moves happening, but we're going to set aside NBA for a minute and talk about some football for a couple podcasts. All right, so again, episode 7, let's get into it. All right, so this is what we're going to get into today. We're going to talk about the ongoing lawsuit with Deshaun Watson currently right now, as many of y'all know, and what happens with Baker Mayfield. All right, so let's get into it. So, March 17th, 2021, a civil lawsuit has been filed against Deshaun Watson for sexual, not exactly what it was sexual harassment. I don't know what it was. It was a civil lawsuit basically against Deshaun Watson by a massage lady. Apparently, Deshaun Watson had been getting massages from these different women, having them do countless things to him that were uncalled for. So we get to March 17th, so the first civil lawsuit has been filed against Deshaun Watson. One woman has come forward finally and stepped up and talked about it. Then, as the year goes on in 2021, you get more and more that pop up out of nowhere. Within the next couple of days, there was more lawsuits popping up. And then week by week it was quiet, and then it popped back up again. And then now we're sitting here at 24 lawsuits, I believe, is the current right now. So let's talk about this whole shenanigan. So basically, now where we're sitting at right now with Deshaun Watson is we don't know. There's the lawsuit is going on right now with him in the NFL. They're still talking about it. I don't know when they're supposed to finish up, but they're getting more deep into it. We don't know. The question's in the air. How long will he be suspended? Will he even be playing for the Cleveland Browns? So this is all going on with Deshaun Watson wanting to lead the Texans. Right as that season hit last season for 2021, Deshaun Watson had made it clear that he did not want to play for in 2021, before it started, he was not going to play for the Texans. He was, with the ongoing civil assault, with all the cases that were coming in with the civils. I don't know how much was at the time when the season started, but they were coming in, and he was getting more. And so the Texans and him thought he'd just sit for this season, and that he would not play for this season. He wanted to get traded. Took a while, but he finally got traded. So what happens? So fast forward to the NFL season. We're done here. It's March. Super Bowl's just finished. So we get into NFL free agency now. So here's what happens. More civil lawsuits are coming out. A lot more people are coming forward, and there's things that are going on that's crazy right now. So when you get to March, it has been official that it was reported that Deshaun Watson was traded to the Cleveland Browns on a 5-year, $223 million deal, guaranteed money, basically guaranteed money in a 5-year deal. And this rocked and shook a lot of people. Like you get this, what? You get this big deal after you're dealing with the civil lawsuit. And what is going on here? This is okay. First of all, this is such a Cleveland Browns thing because you traded for Deshaun Watson all this money, and with this ongoing lawsuit right now as we speak, you don't know if he's even going to play for this year. So that is such a Browns thing that just that they did. So now Deshaun Watson has been traded to the Browns with all this money. So we don't know if he's going to play or not, and that's the question in the air. Then we get to June 5th, and this is what will happen June 5th, I believe it is. Either June 5th or June 7th. Yes, it was June 7th, 2022. Just reported by the New York Post at first. This was the first report. Deshaun Watson used at least 66 female massage therapists over 17 months. So somebody from the New York Times or the New York Post, I'm sorry, basically reported out that 66 female massage therapists. Now that it was that Watson called and paid 66 women, 66 female massage therapists. And then in the article, it also says that Deshaun Watson has been accused by a 24th woman. So that's where we stand currently right now is 24 women. 20 out of 24 have already been settled, and you got to get the other 4 going. So that's what it is. So now this is just crazy because this is early June. This is when the civil lawsuit is starting. And it's also, apparently it also says in there that the Texans helped out Watson with paying something involving with money, that they helped out with something or they knew about it, but they just didn't because when Deshaun was down there, this is where all the massage stuff was happening when he was down in Houston before he got traded. So they were saying that Houston had like a cover up or something where they didn't tell anybody that something this and this was happening. So yeah, that's the crazy part is 66. He at least used at least 66 female massage therapists over 17 months. So let's get down into some info on what's going on. So it says here that in the post that it says that Deshaun Watson has said that he went to 40 massage therapists during his 5 years with the Texans, a number that has raised eyebrows. Deshaun Watson went to 40 massage therapists during his 5 years with the Texans. Now, however, it seems he actually used at least, with the quote markings, it says at least 66 female massage therapists over just a 17th period between the fall of 2019 and the spring of 2021. That was reported by the New York Times or Post. Yeah, the New York Post. And then it goes on to say Watson has been sued by 24 massage therapists for alleged sexual that's what it was. He was alleged for sexual misconduct. An additional woman sued him but withdrew her suit. So basically, people are coming forward now later into this case that Deshaun Watson did something terrible to him. A lot of women were coming out and saying that they forced him to. I'm not gonna get into what exactly they told him to do, but they were basically telling him stuff that they felt uncomfortable with, that they did not like from him, and they said that he asked them to do it in a weird way. But we're not going to get into that because that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to talk about what's going on with Deshaun Watson and how this case will fold out. So now you get to, now you're at this point where now they're saying that he used at least 66 female massage therapists. That is a lot over a countless from fall of 2019 and the spring of 2021. The 2019 season, his last year before he went out, he was playing that year. And what does that say? That says the spring of 2021. When it was the spring of 2021, it was NFL free agency for last season, coming in this past season. So that raised a lot of eyebrows when it was first 40, and that raises even more eyebrows when it's 66 female massage therapists. Now, a lot of people at first when So at first, when these lawsuits were first coming out back in last year of March in 2021, people couldn't believe it. People were like, "Oh my gosh, there's no way these countless women have come forward this much and out of nowhere just seven." Because when Deshaun Watson was trying to get out of the Texans, when Deshaun Watson wanted to get out of the Texans, these lawsuits started popping up right as he wanted to get out of Houston. So then they start popping up, and then people were just saying how, oh wow, I can't believe how Deshaun Watson, how all these women have come forward and have come forward and sued this man Deshaun Watson. There's no way that he did this to this amount of women. Well, it does say that he did pay, or he used it. There was massages that he went to, and people were thinking that the women were using this as an advantage. They were making up stories that way they can get the money. Well, now this seems probably true if 66 women have now come forward and said, or if this article here says it seems that actually he used at least 66 female massage therapists. This is even when you're playing football. In 2021, after this, you weren't even playing that next year. This was going on between the fall of 2019 and the spring of 2021. What the heck, Deshaun? That's crazy. That amount of number. We don't know if it's all the same number or if it's like all of it, but we don't know what is going to happen. Now, this is I was trying to find it, but I found it. This article by the same New York Post and the same thing. If I can see where it is. Yeah. So basically a woman from HBO, or a woman talked to somebody, and she talked about, and it's on HBO Real Sports, saying how he grabbed her wrist and put her hand there. He put her hand there. You know what I'm talking about. And she didn't tell him no. She told him, it says here that she let him proceed into these instances, and I didn't know what to tell him no. Woman, if a man is telling you to put his hand where it doesn't belong, then woman, if a man is telling you to put your hand where it does not belong and feel comfortable, just push him away and say no. Come on. Like, this is and here's the thing, we see this all the time when it comes to sports. We see sexual assault, sexual misconduct with some type of NFL or NBA player, or any sport having this involvement with women. So now, with all these interviews going around, we're not going to get into more what the women we're talking about, because again, what are we here for? So now this whole Deshaun Watson thing is getting crazy out of hand. There's 66 women that come forward. We don't know what's going to happen now. And there's been reports flying around for the past month and the past weeks and the past month that Deshaun Watson might not even step on the field this season. Deshaun Watson, number 4, the guy from Clemson, the guy that won a national championship for Clemson, a guy that has been successfully playing well for the Texans and has put up great numbers. They're saying now that the NFL might suspend him for not just a few games, but the whole game. Or not the whole game, the whole season. Deshaun Watson might not even step on the field for the Cleveland Browns this 2022 and 2023 NFL season, ladies and gentlemen. And this is where I said that this is such a Browns thing to do. You gave up all that money. You traded a lot away for one man, for all this money, just for him to be in a civil lawsuit right now, where they're saying that he might not even play the full season or play at all this year. That's such a Browns thing to do. And what else have you done? You also just traded for Amari Cooper back in this past free agency, so you're thinking, okay, we have Deshaun now. You signed Denzel Ward, crap ton of money, and you still got a few more people you need to sign. That this might not go overboard. This might go overboard. You might have to cut some people. I don't know, maybe, but Anyway, you signed this guy, Deshaun Watson, all this money just to be told, oh, he might not play this season. So who's going to be your quarterback when if he doesn't play for half the year or when he doesn't play at all? There's some people that I see also keep saying that Deshaun Watson might not even play for the Cleveland Browns. He might be just be out and about. He just might be out and playing somewhere else. So who's going to play quarterback for you? And this is where the next saying comes in. This is where the next part of this comes in. Baker Mayfield. Oh, I'm sorry. This is what I was trying to look for. Also, it also says in the same New York Post article. I'm sorry. Before we move on to Deshaun Watson, I'm sorry that I'm going back to this article. I should have read it earlier. But this also says that also per the New York Post or New York Times, a member of the Texans organization provided Watson with an NDA form to give massage therapists. Let me read that again. A member of the Texans organization provided Watson with an NDA form to give massage therapists. The franchise, which the Times also said provided the venue Watson used for some of the appointments, said in a statement it first learned of sexual misconduct allegations against the quarterback in March 2021. The Texans also said they've cooperated with investigators and will continue to do so. Two grand juries in Texas have declined to proceed with criminal charges against Watson in connection with the myriad of allegations. Watson and his attorneys have repeatedly claimed any sexual activity with any of the massage therapists was consensual. Okay, so basically the Texans were giving him stuff to go get these massages done, and this is where the Texans are probably gonna get in trouble, and I think they've already been sued for it. But now let's get into Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield's coming off a very, very rough year. Baker Mayfield's been criticized for not being a good quarterback, for not being a good franchise quarterback, for making these mistakes. He had Odell. They're saying that Odell's time in Cleveland was wasted because of Baker Mayfield. And honestly, I don't like with how it played out this year for the Browns, Deshaun Watson or the Cleveland Browns. Baker Mayfield he wasn't he wasn't himself this year. He had Odell was half out. Basically it was Odell's career was being wasted by Baker Mayfield because Baker Mayfield he makes so many mistakes, and I've seen it throughout the years that he's been in Cleveland. Even this year he's making bad mistakes. Baker Mayfield can make mistakes in the most clutchest moments in the worst times ever. And he could he he basically is not. I don't in my eyes see him as a franchise. I do see him as a franchise quarterback somewhere else, but with Cleveland, I don't think it just works out with how he's performed so far. But I mean, his numbers have looked great throughout the years. I think his numbers for each year for 2018 when he first got drafted to Cleveland, his first year was 3,725 yards. And then that progresses 1,000 more to 3,827 yards. And then 2020 year, 3,563. So it declines a little. But this season, 2021, it drops a lot to 3,010 yards. So Baker Mayfield didn't meet expectations and he did not perform well. He's gone through the Browns to the playoffs a few times, but I think once. He's only gotten the Browns to the playoffs once, which is this past season. But Baker just doesn't show up a lot. And this past year, it showed that he did not show up and he wasn't that same dude. Now, I may be wrong in the future when I say Baker could be a totally different quarterback if he is traded somewhere else. But I don't know about how in Cleveland, how I don't think it worked out well. But now, so here's where you stand with Baker Mayfield. So in the free agency, with the way it ended with the Browns and Baker Mayfield had come out and said during free agency that I want to be traded. He requested a trade, saying that he wasn't happy with the organization. He even said out on his social media, he sent out a whole letter saying how he was not wanting to be here, how he thinks that he should move on, and then after that, he requested a trade. So he requested a trade, thinking he's leaving, he wants to get out. What does Cleveland Browns do? They say, no, you're staying. We don't want to get rid of you. So all these teams are now coming and swirling around throughout the free agency portion and saying, hey, we want Baker. There's a lot of teams that were invested into getting Baker, but it just didn't work out in the end. But I think there's still some teams out there trying to get Baker. But the Browns just kept telling all those teams, no, we're not trading Baker. But now the Browns are keeping Baker. They still have him. Like, okay, it never worked. It wasn't going to work out. Like, you get to this free agency, he's asking for a trade. You signed Deshaun Watson. It's such a Browns thing to do. They signed Deshaun Watson. They leave Baker here. What do you expect? You're going to have Baker as the backup quarterback? That's probably what they're thinking of doing, but this is such a Browns thing. Why don't you let Baker Mayfield go because you knew it wasn't going to work? Why keep him when he could go spread his talent somewhere else, okay? It's not our fault that we told you guys to go ahead and sign Deshaun Watson while also dealing with the civil lawsuit right now and keep Baker Mayfield. No, this is wrong. This is wrong for Baker Mayfield. He needs to go somewhere else. Like, this is not okay for him. He doesn't need to be caught up in all this situation right now. Okay? It's such a Browns thing to do because you signed this man, and now you won't even get rid of it. You know what? They probably just figured this out now that they're going to keep Baker Mayfield just in case Deshaun Watson doesn't have to play. So then why keep him? Like, it wasn't going to work out. Like, you knew this wasn't going to be good, so just let him go. Like, it's not too hard. Like, I know I'm ranting here and this is supposed to be a podcast, but I just don't understand why the Browns are doing this right now. Like, Baker Baker's not Baker Mayfield is unhappy with you in the first place to begin with, Cleveland. Like, Baker is over here before he requested trade, he's already out here going on his social media saying I want out of saying thank you to he's already thanking the city of Cleveland, basically saying thank you for all the years that I played here before he even requests it, and then the news comes out he requests a trade. So Cleveland, why keep him? Like, at this point, this is your problem. You're the one that decided to go out and get a man that's dealing with civil lawsuits. So you're the one that decided to give him all this money, and you're the one that's possibly not have him for this whole season or maybe even half. My goodness. And this is what me and my friend also were talking. My friend and I were saying. This is such a Cleveland Browns thing. This is something the Cleveland Browns would most definitely do. So now Baker Mayfield might get traded. He might not get traded. Okay, that it's just that point. I think Baker needs to go. I think Baker doesn't need to be caught up in this. I think he needs to get traded. The Browns need to trade him now because I know that there's a few teams that need a quarterback, and the Panthers were a number one hotspot. The thing with the Panthers, I don't think Sam Darnold's going to work out. Sam Darnold never worked out this past year. He failed a lot. He didn't do very well. We thought the Jets was the problem. No, it's just him in general. No. Cam Newton, that's not going to work out. That won't work out at all. You brought him back and it didn't work out at all. It just never worked out in general. So Baker Mayfield is a guy that the Panthers needed. I know there's still some others. I don't know. The Falcons maybe could be up there with their quarterback. I think they just drafted one and they got Marcus Mariota, but it would be nice to have Mayfield for them. But I feel at this point, I know I've already said that I don't think that Baker Mayfield was meeting expectations in Cleveland, even though he did make the playoffs. I did say that I don't think Baker is that quarterback. Like, he's not that talent level yet, like some of these other guys are so far in their careers. But in the end, I'm just saying, like, I feel bad for Baker because he's basically telling the organization, I want out. He's telling them, I want to go. I don't want to be here anymore. And they're just basically toying with him and saying, no, we're not going to keep you. We're going to keep you here. But Baker is probably going to be the backup quarterback. If the Browns don't want to get rid of him, he's probably going to be the backup quarterback for Deshaun. And if Deshaun can't play this year, then Baker's the quarterback. But again with the Deshaun Watson, now that so that's what I have for Mayfield. We don't know an official decision yet, as I keep saying with Deshaun Watson. We don't know when he's going to play. Will he play at all? Will he even step on the field for the Browns? And that's going to be a cap space issue. But Deshaun Watson's also been out here in training camp and practices, throwing the ball and practicing with his team, so he's been doing that. But with this lawsuit going on, I don't know how it's going to be for him, if he's going to stay or if he's going to go. It's just a lot to handle, and this is blowing my mind in the first place. At least 66 female massage therapists, and you are basically telling them, and you're telling them to do certain things that they don't feel comfortable with. Deshaun, you're an NFL quarterback. Aren't NFL quarterbacks also supposed to be the leader on the team, the guy that brings up everybody, the quarterback that tells his team, hey, let's go out here, let's have fun, let's do a good game? I can't remember for the years that I've been watching football as a 16-year-old, I don't know the last time, I can't recall the last time I saw a quarterback this talented go and have all these massages scheduled and done with and do on things that are not very comfortable with the massagers. Like, that is not something that I think is that's something on his part too. People were also saying at first, as I mentioned, that this is also because the women were trying to get the money, but also this is also on his part. This is something that just cannot happen ever. And now that he's with Cleveland and this is something that he has to deal with, I don't think that Cleveland should have even done it. Cleveland shouldn't even made the call to Deshaun to tell him you're getting to trade for him. They shouldn't even made the call. They should have just let it, because you wanted to let this lawsuit go down first. Like, you couldn't just trade for him and then do it. Like, this is such a Cleveland Browns thing. You should have waited it. Like, Cleveland, now you're in a situation where your quarterback is not even probably going to play the first. Where we all know for sure he won't be out there week 1. I guarantee he will not be out there for week 1. If the NFL lets him out there week 1, we're going to have major problems with Goodell and the organization. But I don't think that this is right. This is terrible for an organization like this to be dealing with this. And quite frankly, I don't even know if I can handle Deshaun Watson anymore. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a good person, but a quarterback like him wouldn't just go out and do this. But it's proven that he just did it. So where do I see Deshaun Watson in the future as far in the league? He could be playing for another team. He could not even be playing in the NFL ever again after this. He probably won't even be playing in the NFL. As I keep mentioning over and over, he probably won't even be playing this year, which I think is a good thing. It's a good punishment for him, because with all 20 out of the 24 have been covered already. So now you have another 4. But the fact that that's 66 people, like, are you kidding me, man? That's uncalled for. That's not, no. You're going to probably lose him, and this is cap space money too, so you're going to probably hurt your cap. But it's like, Cleveland, what are you doing, man? Like, that's not, it's terrible. All these women coming forward and saying that this one man, all these women coming out and saying that this one man did it to them, all in different times through a 17-month span, is just beyond my mind. So, I don't know. So, in my closing moments here with this podcast, this is a pretty good segment. But with my closing remarks here, all I gotta say, what I gotta say is, I don't know how this will shape out for the rest of the league. I don't know what will happen with Watson. I don't know what will happen with Baker. But I'm just saying that this is really bad on the Cleveland Browns and some part of the Texans. This is bad on Cleveland and bad on the Texans. And they need to figure out what they're going to do, or else they probably won't even have another future quarterback or franchise quarterback. So, with all that being said, with this podcast, I am going to end it on here. Thank you for listening. You are listening to Cooper Sports Podcast, day-to-day podcast bringing you the best content from the NBA and NFL. Thank you for the views and the subscribes and the following on Spotify. I think I've done a very good job As I keep mentioning, weekends will not be a podcast. Yesterday was 4th of July, so it was a busy day yesterday. But with all that being said, thank you for listening. I am Cooper Brooks, host of Cooper Sports Podcast. Thank you for listening.